Morning, oh everybody, there I am. Hello. Looks like I've come to prepare a little skit with my little props bag. It's only one prop, I may or may not use it. But good morning, everyone. It's great to see you here, and this is an incredible privilege to be able to speak and to be given an opportunity to share the word with you. And I don't get to do this very often. Public speaking it's a very unique thing because, generally, just an everyday life, you can talk heaps and you've got your full vocabulary of words, and then you come here and then there's you can remember 20 words, and then it's like, Lord, I need to preach a sermon from 20 words, 25 max if I pluralize, and it's like, and then you look at your notes and all of a sudden you look at something and you go, I didn't put that in there. It's all new. It's public speaking is a interesting thing. But I am continuing our I Am series today. And so if you remember, over the last 2 weeks, we spoke on adoption last week. Pastor Luke spoke on adoption. And then the week before, we spoke on holiness, which I really loved. I loved both sermons, but I really loved that idea about God seeing us as holy, and that, all our imperfections, everything we are, holiness is our portion. How amazing, hey? And I really hope that today that you also come away thinking, how amazing is God? How wonderful is God? And my topic today is I am redeemed. Oh, you already know. I am redeemed. And, when you think of those words, you go, okay, well, I am saved. Okay, that's, pretty general. How are you going to talk around that? But the word redeemed, I think, implies something else. It's not just a saved, we're Christian and that's our status. Redeemed implies that we've been brought from something into something else. And I hope you, and that's foundational, I think, to really appreciating what God has done. So just remembering the context of that. And so I am going to, the way I approached this was, okay, I need to ask myself some questions, because, okay, I want this statement, I am redeemed. I want it to mean something deep, and I want it to mean something new for you and for me. And so I'm speaking to myself as well. So what questions would I ask to bring out this wonder of redemption, the wonder of eternal redemption that God has given us and desired for us? So it's not something that we've done, it's something that He's done. That's the first thing to remember. And that, if you were to understand and really grasp this wonder, how would it change the way that you see yourself? How would it change the way that you see God as well? So I hope that today, and I'm giving you the answers right now, I hope that today you see that you are fully redeemed, and that means that you're rescued from sin, that you're made new, you're a new creation, and you have purpose. So looking, remembering the past, looking at the present, but then the hope for the future. So we're going to unpack that. A key verse that I like, and when I given the opportunity, I thought, I'm going to Leanne Gomez this. I'm going to go into the, get the Greek out, and all. She's not here for me to, but look at the definitions of the words. But look, in Ephesians 1:7, Paul writes, "In Him we have redemption through His blood, the forgiveness of sins in accordance with the riches of His grace." And that word redemption there, he uses it multiple times. And in the Greek, it's, if we say it like Aussies, it's apollotrosis. If you say it like a Greek, it's apollotrosis. You roll that R, lighten up the T. And it's used multiple times in the New Testament. And it's in relation to paying off a debt or clearing a debt. But there's also this inference that it's buying a captive out of slavery and releasing them into freedom. And and that's, obviously what Jesus has done for us. Okay, so let's go to my first question was, well, if I'm redeemed, what was I redeemed from? Again, you might think that's pretty obvious, but let's nut it out. So Colossians 1:13-14 says that we were released from darkness. We were redeemed from darkness. For He has rescued us from the dominion of darkness and brought us into His kingdom, the kingdom of the Son He loves, in whom we have redemption, the forgiveness of sins. And so you see here that there's this, what I spoke about in the just briefly, like 2 seconds ago, about this transference, this moving from one place to another, that he took us from spiritual bondage and transferred us into his kingdom. He's changed our identity and our purpose. And so we're not just forgiven, we're moved from darkness to light. And speaking of darkness to light, isn't it great to see Ben Rumsey here from Queensland? Coming back down into the light of New South Wales. Wonderful to see you here. Zoe, Debbie's not here. Zoe, is Eli here? Go, Zoe. Upstairs, okay. But anyway, I thought, how can I work Ben Rumsey into my sermon? I thought, but a second thing that we've been redeemed from is slavery to sin. Romans 6 says, we know that our old self was crucified with him so that the body ruled by sin might be done away with, that we should no longer be slaves to sin. And so in that way, redemption changes our status, that sin no longer owns us. The old self died with Christ so that the new life could begin. And so now we're empowered by grace, not sin. Thirdly, another powerful thing that we've been redeemed from is the demands of the law. So Christ redeemed us from the curse of the law by becoming a curse for us. For it is written, cursed is everyone who is hung on a pole. And so that verse really encapsulates the gospel, doesn't it? That Jesus was innocent. He took the penalty we deserved so that we could be free from the demands and the consequences of the law. He fulfilled the demands of the law so that we didn't have to live by that. And you know, the first thing that actually came to me, which when I thought about, you know, what have been we redeemed from, it's an eternity without God. Like, imagine that separation. We don't think about that. We don't like to think about hell. We like to dwell on the nice things in life, don't we? But when you dwell and when you think about it, it begins to break your heart about our loved ones who do not know the Lord, who have not accepted the redemption that he has offered. Like, we all rejected God. You know, we were born that way, and he has sent his son, Jesus, to offer us that redemption so that we don't have to be alone, so that we are with him. He wants us. He desires you. He loves you. You are very precious to him. We're all precious to him. And it makes you, that's why we need Alpha. That's why we're running Alpha. That's why we're doing these, outreaches, because we want people to know that same redemption. We want them to have this wonder of, and it's a wonder. It's a miracle. You are a miracle here. You know, you're the outworking of a miracle. Isn't that just, you know? And so there's, yes, again, so much that we could stop there and just dwell on that. But I didn't make it a point. But not because I was scared of talking about hell. But it's not a nice place, and it's the absence of God, you know, for eternity. God, the Bible says that God has put eternity in the hearts of men. Everyone knows, has that sense of eternity, that you know, life goes on, that we exist for eternity. But you know, we don't want them to exist without Him. So generally speaking, you know, you wouldn't say to dwell on the past, but when we think about this point, and just summing up this first point, it is important to remember what God has done. And you know, that's why in your personal devotion time, communion is so important. It's what we did. Tim, brilliant this morning. You know, just the goat of communion. The actually, that's not right, is it? The lamb of, no, not the lamb either. No, but the greatest of all time, you know. But you know, yeah, just that those truths you brought up, I thought was great. But you know, but not just doing it every Sunday, right? Like every, you know, it's communion. You know, we encourage that you do it in your own time with your family, and just always remembering what God has done, because it just heightens and deepens that wonder of His redemption for you. You know, that He's done. Okay, so my next question then was, okay, well, you know, if and not to say there's any doubters here, but why couldn't I redeem myself? You know? And so then here I was thinking, what about if can I think of some funny stories where I couldn't redeem myself? You know, and not relating to this. And I do have some I think they're funny stories, but you know, when there's situations that you can't redeem yourself from. Now, this may not be funny to you, but it was kind of funny to me. When I was like a long time ago, I was going to say when I was 25 years ago, I was invited to go with my friend who was the youth pastor at our church, Hilary Williams. Many of you would know him, to go to Canada, and they wanted him to speak at a youth conference, and he just wanted me to come along as his buddy. Didn't have to do anything. I got to lead worship a little bit. But do you know Canada? It's far away. And it was a 15-hour flight from here to, from Sydney to LA, and then you had to go to LA to Chicago, and then Chicago to Toronto. And I did not sleep a wink from Sydney to LA, and I was ropeable. I was, you know, when your body is just like, you're so tired and you're raging inside because you're so tired and you can't rest your head, rest your neck. Everything's tightening up, everything's cramping up. And in the meantime, like, so Hilary is like absolutely, he's in the, you know, you've heard him speak before, possibly, hopefully. He's a amazing pastor, amazing, you know, evangelist, and just, you know, he was really on fire. He was just wanting to, like, you know, reach out and to anybody that was just within, you know, talking, you know, earshot, you know, just tell them the gospel. And he was like on fire this trip, you know, he was. And so then so I survived Sydney to LA, and then on the trip from LA to Chicago, for some reason, I got sat in between him and a person that he really wanted to minister to. And so I was, and so this person was not of our faith, obviously, and Hilary was going hard. It's like, you know, this, you know, the Father really loves you. And I remember, you know, he's going, I really pray that you, you know, you really experience, you know, God's love, you know, as you know, in this next part of your life. But in the meantime, I'd finally nodded off to sleep. Finally, after what was like now 18 hours, and I was, but the problem was, I woke up straight away because I'd had this horrible dream, and I just went, I just fell off a cliff, and that they both sat back in their seats and just and was silence for the rest of the the journey. Now, you know, for some reason, I've always remembered that story. Like, I can't redeem myself and tell that person that, like, you know, hadn't slept for 18 hours, you know. But anyway, it's never been used in a sermon by him before, and I've been waiting for it. But like, this is my chance, and I get to embarrass myself. Another time when I couldn't redeem myself was when I was in Hawaii. I have to mention Hawaii, and I had, you know, how you have to buy. When you go there, they have chocolate-covered almonds. Are they almonds or macadamias? Macadamias, and you know, because you're going to give them you want to take them back and give them to gifts for people, but then actually just eat all 3 boxes yourself. And so then I went to the counter, and this is when the dollar was horrible, right? So this last year the dollar was horrible. So I was paying like $50 Australian for 3 boxes of chocolates, $19.99 US, you know, but I thought that was $16.99. So the lady had a queue, and I dragged her back to the counter, to the shelf, and I said, "You charged me $16.99 and then $19.99." And we both looked at all the tags, and everything said $19.99. Anyway, that was that story. But again, I don't know these people. Maybe I care less because as I'm getting older. If I was younger, I probably would have cared even more less and been, you know, shrouded in more embarrassment right now. But that was like, I was like, oh my goodness, I've got like late onset dyslexia in my old age. You know, it's like it's really happening to me. This is the thing. And another example of, and I'm glad they're not here. They're here. I'm not looking at them. Was last week in the car park when I almost crashed into Adam and Sarah because I was waving goodbye to Andrew Clashes, and all of a sudden there's stop and honk, and they're like, "I thought you saw us," but I'm like this driving with the accelerator down. And poor Arthur, he saw all his 7 days of his life flash before his eyes, you know, and because of me and my accelerator. And so I haven't not looked at them ever since. So like I can't. I was just like, I can't. Like, what do they think? Like, they barely know me, and I've you know, almost taken them out. So let's pray. No, just joking. So then, why couldn't I? So we needed Jesus to 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 redeem us. So as Tim alluded, we needed a perfect and holy sacrifice to enter into that holy place. The Father, he could only accept that holy and perfect sacrifice, and we couldn't. We weren't. So if we look at Hebrews 9:12, he did not enter by the means of blood of goats and calves, but he entered the most holy place once for all by his own blood, and obtaining eternal redemption for us. 1 Peter 1:18-20. For you know that it was not with the perishable things such as silver or gold that you were redeemed from the empty way of the life handed down to you from your ancestors, but with the precious blood of Christ, a lamb without blemish or defect. He was chosen before the creation of the world and was revealed in these last times for your sake. So only a perfect sacrifice could enter God's presence and be that sacrificial lamb for us. He's pure and holy, but he desires us so much that he sent Jesus to be our high priest and our mediator, so that he could be both an eternal sacrifice and make a way for us to be in his presence, as we've discussed. Another reason is that, I guess it follows on from that, is that we aren't clean in ourselves. We were born into sin. And Isaiah 64:6 says, all of us have become like one who is unclean, and our righteous acts are like filthy rags. And so people have used an example before. It's like, we're like trying to clean a dirty window with a dirty rag. It just keeps getting dirty. We needed the pureness of Jesus, and God gave him to us. Romans 3:23-24, for all have sinned and fall short of the glory of God, and all are justified freely by his grace through the redemption that came by Christ Jesus. So I hope you see that I'm trying to build here this being saved and becoming a Christian, making a decision is a wonderful thing, but it's not some flippant, light-hearted thing. It's an amazing thing has happened for that to become possible. And so as we're going to move on, we want to see how we can live that out. It should change the way we live. It should change the way how we see life. Ephesians 2:8-9, it is the gift of God. So it's by grace that you've been saved through faith, and this is not from yourselves. We couldn't do it. It is the gift of God, not by works, that no one can boast. This is all, we boast in the glory of God. It's to him. And so salvation isn't a reward for good behavior. It's a gift from God received by faith, and we can't boast about being redeemed. We can only thank the one who did it for us. And I'd like to now introduce a sidebar topic that in the Old Testament, in the book of Ruth, we hear about this idea of a kinsman redeemer. And this is only purely for entertainment's sake. But does anybody know, who this is? It's E.T. It's E.T. Now, I got this I got him when I was 5 or something, or 7 or something like that, and I've kept him ever since. Now, Kate and Zara saw E.T. and he was trash. He wanted to be, if we had a garage sale, they would have put him in the garage sale, and I would have been horrified. Now, by the same token, I will do that to our dogs. Does anybody want our dogs? I'm over them. If you've spent 5 minutes with me, you will hear that I want to give away our dogs. Anyway, but so it's tit for tat. That's why. So I've kept E.T. and Kate's kept the dogs. But in many ways, the world and our condition to Kate, E.T. to Kate is like, what our condition is in the world. We are dusty and we're, worthless. We don't mean anything. But God loved us so much. He doesn't see us like that at all. You are not E.T. Thank you, buddy. Okay. Both the one who makes people holy and those who are made holy are the same family. So this idea of Jesus being the kinsman redeemer. So that story in Ruth about, she has a kinsman be her redeemer. Jesus is our redeemer as our he's our family. It's our family member redeeming us. And so I guess the challenge here is how much, looking at that and looking that you can't redeem yourself. How much do you still try to or rely on good works? How much do you try to do things in your own strength, or do you slip back into that works mentality? It's something to think about, and hopefully something that you can let go of today. thirdly, what does living like a redeemed person look like? So I thought this would be, again, useful because it's part of the challenge, isn't it? Of like, again, not just, no, I'm not just a status. This means something. Jesus, what you did for me, God, you sending Jesus means something, and I want it to change my life, and it should change my life. And I wanted to have a time of prayer at the end, and it's for anyone who might be struggling and thinking, okay, well, God, you meant this for me, but I'm not sensing it, and because we all struggle with things, and yeah, like that's been like my heart is to see people on their journey, recognizing that people have struggles, but just knowing that God wants to redeem those areas that might be dead or dormant, that you've struggled with. He wants to redeem them, and He wants to breathe life. He wants to speak to them, and I just love to stand with you on that. So firstly, what does living like a redeemed person look like? We are living sacrifices. Romans 12, 1-2. I urge you to offer your bodies as a living sacrifice. Do not conform to the pattern of this world, but be transformed by the renewing of your mind. So we need to allow our time in the Word, allow God's Word to renew our mind. And, I understand that there are many things that demand our time today. Work, we have the pressures of work, family, totally necessary things. But without spiritual discipline, we can forget who we're enslaved to. Now, enslaved I use in a positive sense in terms of being enslaved to God. But if you don't practice spiritual discipline or don't have those disciplines in your life, you can slip back. And at the risk of sounding unpopular and inciting letters to the editor, what's happened to church attendance? I'm sorry. I know that, no, I'm not sorry. Because, ever since COVID, right, online church was an absolute necessity. It really kept the church going. It was amazing. But then once we could actually meet again and have church again, then, it was kind of, people didn't come back, in full. And that, to me, like that really disappoints me. There's reasons for, I know there's always exceptions, and there's, there could be health issues, which mean watching online means you get to be part of something that you could not otherwise be a part of. But I do believe that we miss out when we don't meet in person. I have been going to church since the age of 15 through the ups and downs of life. I've been serving. I'm not great. I'm not like a fantastic, miraculous person. I've needed it. Like I've needed church. I've needed to serve. It's kept me close to God, and because I instilled it as a discipline. Like that's what we do. We're doing it with our kids as well. That it's what we do. It's what we do. It's 2 hours of your day. You know what I mean? Like it's 2 hours of a day. And I'm speaking to the people that are here, right? And so, but I want you to pass the message on, because in Hebrews it says, "Let us not give up meeting together," and so the word says it. But I also think like our 5 senses, touch, something. They are, where else can you all experience the presence of God together? We can see, we can hear the songs, we can touch each other appropriately. We can, well, if I just said touch each other, you go, oh, Nick, you said touch each other. But, you can taste the coffee, you can taste the food, you can taste and see that the Lord is good. You can feel His presence. You can sense His presence together, And like I've watched church online, it is amazing. I won't go on too much more about it. I know you're all getting squeamish, but and it's wonderful. But I can still hear cars screeching outside. I can hear dogs barking. Listen. This is just awesome. All you've got is the sound of my voice. How good is that? No. But no. I just would love to see us build community. I think that everyone, as we come together every week, people need you and you need people. I need you and you need me. And sometimes look, mental health is, and mental health issues are, predominant everywhere, aren't they? Like it's a very, very real thing. My mental health issues have met their own mental health issues. Like it's a conference up there. It's it's just like, and then they ask me to preach, and then everyone breaks off into small groups. There's like a self-help seminar here. There's a 12-step program. It's I totally get it. I've battled anxiety and depression my whole life from the age of whenever I could have got diagnosed, and unfortunately. Generations today, we are suffering because the generations before us have undiagnosed mental illness. It's really heartbreaking, but I say that because I know that sometimes coming to church can be a struggle for people, and it's for me too, because it's like, I don't want to see people. I just, and it's not like, I come and I'm glad I came, but I'm being real. I'm not gonna, pretend to be, perfect up here and yes, rah, rah, rah. But the thing is, it's about community. It's about, and I really believe in community. And as I said, I instilled it as a discipline in my life for a long time. I could have not come to church for a long, long time, but I kept coming. And I want to encourage you today, if you're here today, it's a sacrifice, because you know what happens? You miss church, and you realize, okay, everyone still loves me. And all these riches and all these truths in the Bible are still mine. And then you miss another week, and but hold on, God still loves me. Everyone still loves me. These riches and truths, they're still mine. But you know what happens? It's no longer a sacrifice anymore. It's a convenience. And we relegate God to a convenience, and living for Him as a convenience, and we're not a living sacrifice anymore. So, yeah. So, other than that, my time's up. No, oh my goodness, look at the time. Oh, my time's up. No, we need to pray. Okay, so I'll just go very quickly. So as a redeemed person, you are called to do good. And let me just clear this up. You don't do good to get redemption. Like doing good works is an outcome of being redeemed. Amazing. And you do it with a whole different passion, right? So, and then also, we enjoy freedom. We're not living in the bondage of our old thoughts and our old, just our old ways, mind patterns. We're not. Again, it's a different yoke. It's not the yoke of slavery, as it says in Galatians. It's an easy yoke. It's Jesus leading the way. So redemption isn't just a past event, but it should affect our daily lives. And a redeemed person lives with purpose, and with joy and with service. I'm going to ask the band to come up now. I know I'm going to skip the last one. What should my outlook on life be? The answers were purpose, hope, and assurance. But I think hopefully you've got that now. But I wanted to, as I said before, I had a sense that I've got friends in this room, and I've got friends outside this room that are, really battling, and could be some have got health issues, some marriage issues. People need physical healing, and it's like that part of your life has died. And it's it's brought great distress. And so I wanted to remind you of that verse in Romans. He gives life to the dead and calls into being things that were not. For you it might be something else. It might be maybe it's a calling of God that you have not seen. You thought God called you to something, and it hasn't played out. It hasn't happened. I really wanted to just pray and pray with you and stand with you today, and ask the pastors as well to pray with you. But first and foremost, if you've never accepted the gift, the redemption offered through Jesus, first and foremost, I would love to pray with you today. I would love you, if you don't feel confident to come out the front when we ask, you can speak to one of the pastors after. We'd love to, pray with you and celebrate with you that you've made that decision. Whatever you do, whether it's now or later, make that decision. It is the greatest gift, and it's a wonder that God would send His Son, and that He desired us so much from the very beginning, to save us. So I understand, the main message has been about that. It's been about eternal redemption, but I really would love, just to pray for those people who might be struggling in other areas, particularly where you see, you've called something in your life dead, and you want God to breathe life back into that. I want to, pray with you. I want to allow the Spirit just to breathe on that for a second. I've just asked the singers to sing that song, "The Blood." That really spoke the message today as well. It's nothing but the blood. It's always been about the blood of Jesus. So I'll just ask if I can invite you to stand, church, and just to open your hearts and to be really mindful of how God might be speaking at the moment. We'll move this to the side. Just as we sing,